Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me for these conversations on Crystal One-on-One. I am so humbled to have my guest today because I don't even know if I can ask all the things that I would like to ask. But before we get into that, we are on location at my home away from home. That is the beautiful spa lounge at the Sheraton Kampala Hotel. Joining me today, I have a gentleman who has said many times that he is as African as they come. Now, he has been in Uganda for about 40 years. With his wife, he founded Watoto Ministries, and about a year ago, he retired. So I want to hear what he's been up to since then. I have Pastor Gary Skinner joining me today. Hello.
Oh, thank you. Hello, Crystal. It's great to be with you. Really is.
It's lovely to have
Thank
you.
you.
It's lovely to see you.
Thank you.
I'm sure a lot of people are missing you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We're missing them.
Yes.
We love Uganda, love Ugandans. This is home. We've lived here longer than anywhere else, and this is home. So nice to be home.
It's nice to be home.
Yeah.
I hear, about a year ago is when you announced your retirement?
Yeah, it was February the 13th.
How
year
was that received?
Oh, very well. Kind of
I mean,
a
this is
shock to many
Africa.
people.
In
Yeah,
Africa,
many
people
people were
don't
shocked.
retire.
They don't retire. Yeah. You hang around until they say, "Wow, he finally left."
Yes.
No, I felt very strongly that it was the right thing to do to prepare some young sons, spiritual sons of mine, to take over the church, and they are doing an awesome job.
Yes, they are doing an
They really
amazing
are.
job.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to see how the church keeps growing and growing.
It is.
Yes. So you mentioned to me that this is a very, very powerful month, should I say, for you,
Yeah.
because you're celebrating 50 years of marriage.
Yeah.
So congratulations to
Thank you very
both.
much. It's been fun.
40 years of Watoto
Watoto
Ministries.
Church. Yep.
And then 30 years of Watoto
Watoto
Childcare.
Childcare.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is quite the legacy.
And it's worth celebrating because it's been an amazing journey. Yeah.
I'm sure most people will focus on the marriage part.
Well, they might.
50 years of marriage.
Wow, he managed to stay for 50 years.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it's been wonderful. I'm sure it's been a journey.
It has been.
Can I ask, what is it that about your wife that you love? I know she's here, so I'd love to hear it.
She's beautiful.
Yes, she is.
She's talented. She's faithful. She's loyal. She's stood by me through thick and thin. She came to Uganda when we came 40 years ago. It was very difficult, dangerous. She raised our 3 children here. She's just been a brick. She's been a rock. And she's been nothing but good for me. She's been the best thing that ever happened to me.
I believe you.
And the amazing thing is I love her more today than when we first got married, and it was pretty strong love then.
You were pretty in love
and she
back
tells me she
then.
loves me too, so I'm happy.
Oh, yes, yes. So you were married for 10 years before you started Watoto Ministries.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to your childhood. Your father was a missionary.
My father was a missionary. He came as a 3-year-old boy with his father and mother to Kenya, who were also missionaries.
So your grandparents were also missionaries?
They came in 1936 to Kenya.
Okay.
So I'm 3 generations in Africa. I was born in Zimbabwe.
So you were born in Zimbabwe.
So I'm an African.
So who was Canadian? Was that your father?
My father came from Canada as a 3-year-old boy, and we were sent by the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, which is the church organization that my parents were part of.
Okay.
So I have a Canadian passport, but I don't feel Canadian in the least. I feel very African.
I remember you saying that when you go back, you've been back many, many times.
Many
But
times.
somehow it's always just not what you're used to. It doesn't feel like home?
No, it doesn't feel like home, and it changes every year. It changes more and more. And Canada is becoming very Western, very secular, very humanist. It's also a country that's changing because we have a massive immigration into Canada from India and from the islands, and so Canada is a changing country. That's not all bad, but it's just not home for me.
This is
This
home.
is,
This is home.
yeah, this is.
I should be asking what you're up to now since you retired. Because once someone retires, everyone's like, so how's retirement?
Well, we just want to serve people any way that we can. And so we still get to meet with pastors and mentor them. We also get to preach some in churches in different parts of the world, attend some conferences and so on, but we're doing far less and enjoying it.
Yes.
And of course, I've been busy writing the book.
Of course, you haven't stepped away completely.
Yeah, and I've been very busy writing the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a very important time for you to launch your book. Can you just tell me about it? You said you've been writing it for 20 years?
Well, the story of Uganda and story of what God did in Watoto Church is an amazing story, and I knew I needed to write it down. So I started 20 years ago, but I think it's better that we've waited until the end, and I can tell the whole story.
Now you can tell the whole story.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we will get around to reading the book, which is exciting. I'm looking forward to that. But the decision to come to Uganda, how did that happen?
We were pastoring in Zambia.
I grew up in Zambia, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. We were pastoring in Lusaka. We had been in Kitwe for 2 years. We went to Lusaka for 2 years. And we were sitting around a table, and the conversation about Uganda came up because it was dangerous at that time. It was just post-Idi Amin war. People were being killed, and it had been in the news. And Jesus spoke to me very clearly. I felt him say, I want you to go to Uganda. I want you to plant an English-speaking church downtown Kampala. Through that church, I'll touch the city. I'll touch the nation. Clear as anything I've ever heard in my life. And I knew we were to come to Uganda. And then there was a process that brought it about.
When you mentioned it to Marilyn, what did she say?
She kicked me in the shins. No, she didn't. She loves me. She wants to serve with me in any way that we can. But to be honest, it was difficult for her. And she said, I don't want to go to Uganda. But God had to speak to her on his own.
Yeah.
And she had made a commitment as a teenager to surrender whatever it was that would hold her back from being all that God wanted her to be. And God spoke to her again and said, this is what I want for you. So she was willing to do that. And she agreed and said, I will surrender to that. So.
Okay. We do have this book that you've been writing for 20 years, Where Faith Lit the Way. How are you feeling about it? Are you a bit apprehensive? Are you excited that people will get to actually read your whole story, not just get the bits and pieces that we hear in your stories?
I'm really excited about the book because it is the culmination of 40 years of an amazing work. And it's an amazing thing that God has done from the dark, difficult days coming to Uganda to what now is a great church full of young people in 17 campuses, up also in Juba, South Sudan, and the miracles that have happened in our lives of protection from thieves and lots of different things.
Actually, I do remember your wife talking about an incident with the children when you were away. And I think they tried to break into the house for hours and they couldn't get in.
The angels were on the other side of the door having a chat, keeping them out.
Was this when you lived in Kansanga?
We lived in Kansanga, and I was away in Kenya and picking up a car, and our first car, which was later stolen, and men came in the middle of the night. In those days, there was tremendous insecurity, and gangs of men would roam at night and loot and rape and pillage. And it was commonplace. Yes. And Marilyn was alone, only for 2 nights, but they came the second night. And she barricaded herself into the room with the kids, and they tried to break down a simple wooden door that she could have broken down. The only answer we have is that there must have been angels that were standing on the other side protecting her, because that's what God says. He says he'll send his angels to protect us.
I remember that story, and I got chills listening to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you said so many miracles over the years. I don't even know if it's possible for you to even look back and see which ones have really stood out for you. But you mentioned having the very clear direction to come to Uganda.
Yeah.
start a church in downtown Kampala.
Downtown Kampala, yeah.
Yes, an English-speaking church.
Yeah.
How was that received once you arrived? You said, "Hey, I'm here. This is what I want to do."
The church at that time was both Anglican, very conservative, or Catholic, and then there were some pretty eccentric Pentecostal churches at that time. And so when we came, God said English. I want you to do an English-speaking church. They said, oh, that won't work. You have to have Luganda. And I said, no, I know it's going to be English. I visited some of the churches and just to see how church was being conducted and so on. And then, but I felt that what God wanted us to do was to reach young people. Very much young people. So, and that's what Watoto Church has done over the years, is created a culture of church that is specifically designed to attract young people, so that young people could have a church experience which was not boring, which was not controlled by old people, but it was fun to be at.
Fun,
and that certainly is,
the
kind of music, the kind of preaching. Eventually, young people felt free to dress in a more contemporary way, which their parents wouldn't let them do before. And so. At first, there was some, wonder, hesitation about this church, but over the years, it's become a great church full of young people. And the dream that God put on my heart was that we were to not just build a big church, but we were to raise the next generation of Ugandan African leaders that could bring about cultural, community, national transformation. So my life has been inspiring the next generation to live out a godly character so that we can build a better nation.
Yes. I mean, I do remember when it was KPC. I started going to church when it was KPC, when I was younger. But that was the thing. It was like, oh, it's so different. It's really fun. It's really, really fun. And there's always been that focus and that welcome to young people. So even hearing you say it, and I remember it over the years, you'd always say, focuses on young people, getting them to come to church, to want to come to church, to be part of the church.
And we're 40 years old now, and I have told the congregation, we're going to be a young people's church forever. This church is not for old people like me, it's for young people like you. And I just love the way God works in the lives of young people and gives them a vision and a dream about things that they can do with their lives. Part of the journey was helping young people to see that serving God is not about what you do in church. Serving God is about whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or a politician. You serve God by serving the people in your community.
How you live your life and how you help others.
And that vision, young people catch on to. Wow, what I'm doing as a doctor, serving patients, is God's work, or politicians or whoever. And I think young people want that kind of vision.
Okay. So you mentioned the old churches, and they used to be quite restrictive in some ways. There were always so many do's and don'ts about, did you ever face any opposition from those churches because you were trying to build a different culture?
I wouldn't say opposition. Don't think they understood. I think there were many parents that were a little concerned about their children going to a Pentecostal church because they were thought of as wild. And so they lumped us in as a wild church just because we were Pentecostal. And, at that time, young people would come to Christ, and they were enthusiastic, and they would get up early in the morning and pray loud at 4:00 and bother the whole house. They would sometimes criticize their parents because they weren't spiritual enough, and they would stay out long and so on. And we said to the young people, we don't want you to do that. We only want you to come if your parents give you permission. Go home and submit to your parents and love your parents. And over a period of time, parents began to accept that what we were doing was making their children better children. Right. And so it changed over a period of time. But initially there was some hesitation. There was also some hesitation between us and the Church of Uganda, because many young people started coming. And they had come from the Anglican community. Many of them, they weren't happy or didn't feel they were, it wasn't their church where they went. So there was a little bit of tension there. That's changed over all of these years. And now I think many of the churches have picked up a lot of the culture and the style of our worship, and they do it in the Anglican churches, the churches of Uganda, and that's exciting. 75% of the people who live in Uganda are under the age of 30.
Yes.
So they don't know anything about those days.
They didn't
were tough
experience
days.
it.
Funerals all the time. The country was disrupted. Child-headed households, both parents dying, leaving children behind. And I heard Jesus say to me, I want you to look after my children. He didn't say the children. He said, I knew instantly my children was the orphan. And I said, no, thanks. I don't want to do that. I want to preach. I want to build a great church. He said to me, I didn't send you to Uganda to do what you want. I sent you to Uganda to do what I want.
Yes.
Look after my children. And then he took me on a journey through the Bible, showing me how much he loves hurting people, the refugee, but especially the orphan and the widow. Isaiah chapter 68, I think it is, extol God who rides in the heavens on his name Yah. The father of the fatherless, the defender of the widow is he. In his holy dwelling place, he sets the lonely in families. He said, you can't separate who I am, the God of heaven, from the God of the ditch for a little kid that's suffering.
Yeah.
And then he said, put the children in families. Don't build an orphanage. And that changed or really fashioned what kind of homes we would build. Then he took me to James chapter 1, verse 27. The kind of religion that God the Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction and to keep yourself from being polluted by the world. And he showed me that what impresses him is not my religiosity, but my genuine compassion for hurting children. So I surrendered, said yes, and Watoto Childcare was born, and it's been an amazing journey. And we've, to date, we've rescued over 5,000 children, and we've put them in homes, not just given them school fees, but we've given them homes, put them in families, built almost 500 homes for them, schools, clinics. It's just too exciting.
It's
it really
just
is.
incredible.
And if you've ever visited the villages, it's
I
not
have.
a collection of huts. It's a really great place.
It was actually mind-blowing, I have to say, my last visit, to actually see everything come together. And then also to meet people who have grown up from the time they were little, placed in their families. Actually, they have siblings, they have moms, they have fathers. It's one big family.
And I tell all of that in the book, the story of building Watoto Childcare Ministries. And then God said, put the children in a choir and take them around the world and tell us a glad story, not a sad story.
Yes.
Not a boohoo, poor us orphans, give us money, dress them in rags. No, put them in nice, bright, colorful African costumes. So we've done that. And now we've had 120 plus choirs travel over the last 30 years.
Oh my
around
goodness.
the world.
Watoto Children's Choir is 30 years? We're going back? 30 years.
Wow, yeah.
Wow.
And we've sung in the White House, Buckingham Palace, many of the parliaments of the world, tens of thousands of churches. And it's just been an amazing journey. And when the kids sing, the presence of Jesus comes down, and people don't even sometimes realize, wow, the presence of Jesus makes all the difference.
True.
Beautiful thing.
And music is a gift. Music is a gift. And you have a background, of course, as well in music.
I met Marilyn. She was a keyboard player, and I was a guitar player, singer on a rock and roll band. That's where we met.
If you didn't know that story. Yes.
And we've been making beautiful music together ever since. And our ministry, Watoto Church, is about music. A lot of the worship and our cantatas that we have at Christmas time, it's all... Marilyn's very gifted, very talented.
Yes.
And she really framed and fashioned our worship and our it's a very powerful thing.
It's wonderful to see, because I don't know if you remember this, but being a musician was always looked at in a not very favorable light back in the day. It's like, okay, you can be a musician, but you have to be something else. But I have seen talent that has been nurtured through the churches. And what you're talking about, young people, I think sometimes you even have the children who have a band and they lead worship. And that leadership that is being planted is something that you get to see. But we also forget how powerful music is.
It is powerful. Musicians have to be disciplined. It doesn't just happen. You have to practice. You have to work hard at it. You have to be creative. It's a discipline. We've helped to train my son started a program to train the Watoto children to become songwriters and musicians. And now in our worship services, in our campuses all around Kampala and Gulu and Juba, there are children who've grown up and they're now leading worship, writing songs, and it's just a powerful thing.
Listening to it, it's, amazing. I wonder how it feels on your end when you have a moment, the two of you, and you look and see what you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you.
It's not what we've done.
How does that feel for you?
It's not just what we've done. It's what God's done through us. He's used us. And we both shake our heads regularly and say, wow, that He would choose to use us. And sometimes people say, so what do you do, Gary? What is it you do in Kampala? And I start telling them and I go, wow, this is amazing because it's so much and so effective and so powerful. And then I stop and I say, thank you for using me, Jesus. You could have used anybody, but you used me. And now here we are 40 years later saying, thank you, God. And that's why I wrote the book. I want to tell that story. It's a beautiful story of how God can take an ordinary couple and do extraordinary things because He's an extraordinary God.
Yes. Yeah. The blessing, the gift that you are.
Thank you.
That you both are.
Thank you.
It's as you said, this is a story that needs to be told. Because I think the privilege some people have had is to hear your stories, but it's always been pieces here and there because you can't tell everything.
And the amazing thing, Crystal, is that it's not just Marilyn and my story and even our children's story, but it's a church full of people who have followed the vision to build this kind of church and become active in the church in so many ways, whether they're in small groups or whether they're in musical teams or whether they're participating in any ushering or it's about a church, about people. It's not just what we've done, it's the story of Watoto Church. And recently God put on our hearts that church is not an event you go to. Church is a family you belong to. And we have that sense. So it's really the story of how God put vision in the hearts of a whole group of people, and it's had massive impact.
Yeah, it's a reminder.
It really is.
The humility that comes with knowing that it's a calling, it's a vocation, but it's also a blessing.
Yeah.
Yes. And you couldn't have done it on your own.
Never.
No.
No great vision is ever accomplished alone. We have to do it together. And our dream has been to see this multiplied and have impact on the youth of Uganda so we can build a new Uganda.
When you mentioned that at the time you were starting out, and there's a little bit of shaky ground when people are like, ooh, our children are very excited to go to this church. Why is that? Because you're kind of changing the culture. At that time. And since then, as you said, so many other churches have grown that we've seen that also, also have different cultures. But it's a very interesting landscape right now. I don't know how you view all the different kinds of churches and Pentecostal churches that have sprung up in Uganda at the moment. The concept we have now of prophets in other churches. I don't know how you've seen that along the way.
There's great spiritual hunger all around the world, and people want answers. And so you always have a different variety of churches that meet different people who have different appetites and tastes, if you like, in terms of music or preaching or what some of the rest is. And so you find people gravitating to certain things. I think there's always going to be some excesses that take place in any situation. And I think we need to be careful about that. I think one of the things that we need more of in the Church of Uganda is unity. is for pastors to be respectful of each other and kind to each other and not speak evil of each other and fight each other.
Because we've been seeing a lot
you
of
see
that.
a lot of that sort of thing happen.
Yeah.
And we as a church have intentionally stayed out of that. We're not going to be involved in talking badly about even people we disagree with, or people that we feel may even be hurting some other people, because unity will make us better. And fighting with each other will never help.
Yes.
And the church, the nation will never become greater than the church. If the church is not united, we'll see the same within the nation. If the church is corrupt, we'll see corruption in the politics. So I think we need to come together as church leaders, and we need to start being nice about each other.
I like that, because we have seen a lot of infighting. We've seen a lot of opposition and basically people trying to one-up each other. But one of the things that you keep mentioning, it's the grace of God at the end of the day. It's not just one person. It is family.
We have so much to be united about, that we don't need to be divided. We do have differences, and we can allow each other to be a little different in this, that, or the other thing, but we need to unite around a common vision to build a Uganda that's based upon the character of Christ and the culture of the kingdom. We can do that.
Yes. You said that, you're as African as they come, and you've talked about the fact that you were born in Zimbabwe, and I think you've been in Uganda the most time, the majority of your life.
Right.
What is the one thing you love the most about Uganda?
It sounds like a simple answer, and oh yeah, he would say that, but it's true. The people, the young people. I love them. They make me so proud. When I see young people, some of them come hurting or broken, and they get their lives together again, and they get involved, and they start smiling, and they start finding a place, and then they fall in love, and they get married, and it's all about people. It's a beautiful country. I love the mangoes. They're terrific. The pineapples are the best. I was hoping
you'd mention the fruit.
The pineapples are the best in the world. This is the real banana republic right here.
Yes.
Really, it is. And the wildlife and the mountains, and there's so much. The bird life in my front yard is amazing. I have parrots, and I have crested cranes come through. It's all beautiful, but the most beautiful, no question about it, is the young people, the people. The people are our greatest treasure in this country, and they're capable people. Many of them are hurt. Many of them have been pushed down and beaten down. Many of them are struggling just to survive, but we can get beyond that if we work together. We can.
But it's a reminder that no one is perfect as well. We are constantly working to get better, to do better, and to help others.
Yeah.
I like what you said. It doesn't matter what someone's vocation is, as long as you're trying to make someone else's life better, to help them, to bless them. Yeah. I mean, that's really what our purpose is all about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you are a grandfather.
I am 7 times.
Are you enjoying being a grandpa?
It's the best.
Because they say when you're a parent, you have to be disciplined. There's so many things that you don't have to do when you're a grandparent.
I heard someone say, if I knew being a grandfather was this good, I'd have had my grandchildren first. Yeah. No, it's very special. We have 2 of our grandsons with us right now. Oh, it's just the very best. They come and jump into bed early in the morning. We have hot chocolate, and we have a pillow fight, and it's terrific. I just love it.
I love to hear that, because I was reading a medical report, and they were talking about how important it is for just health and well-being to spend time with your grandchildren, that they literally are like medicine.
Oh, they really are.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, they really are. And our oldest grandson is 22. He lives in Australia.
Oh, wow.
So who knows, maybe we could be great-grandparents.
Why not? Not that we're rushing anyone.
Why not? Why not?
Might be like, why are you rushing me? But that would be another blessing.
It really would be. We are blessed, so blessed. And what has blessed us is we've been able to serve. We're here to serve the people of Uganda and to love them and to put vision in them and to help them. And they have responded with such incredible love back to us. We are loved, and we're respected, and we're honored. And everywhere we go, people are kind to us. That's Ugandans. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. There might be some people who don't like us, but that's not our problem.
Well, I don't think everyone can like anyone.
We're so blessed
Yes.
to have been here for 40 years. Amazing journey.
Okay, all right. So we know that the church is your passion. Young people of Uganda, children, there's so many things that you're passionate about that you have been guided, to really pour yourself into over the years. What about your passions? Just as Pastor Gary, are there things on the side that you like to do on your own? Especially now you have a little bit more time on your hands.
When I was a teenager, I used to go into the game park, the National Reserve, and I fell in love with Africa's wildlife, and I wanted to be a game warden. That was my dream in life.
Really?
And God said to me, I want you to look after people, not animals. And so that's what I did.
Well, we're thankful for that.
Well, thank you. But I still have a passion for African animals and wildlife. One of the best things for me is to go to the national park and just be there in the bush with the animals. And I just love that. So that's a passion for me. Another passion for me is golf. I enjoy golf. And I just love beating Pastor Julius at golf. I taught him how to play, Pastor Eddie, and they're both doing very well.
What's your handicap?
About 12.
Okay.
Which is not too bad for an old man.
Yeah.
I'm playing the best golf I've ever played, and I'm enjoying that. So that's a passion. I mean, I collect only old books about Africa. I have some great old books on Uganda, which are 100 years old, telling the story of early Uganda. Beautiful.
Really?
Yeah. And the early missionaries and the early government and Apollo Kagwa and all kinds of things. It's my passion, my interest. I love reading about that stuff. The old culture. I've got a book called The Baganda at Home that tells all the story of the food and the culture, and it's very interesting. That's one of my passions.
No, it's so interesting when I read those kind of stories and those books, and they talk about the organization and the structure that at that point in communities that we had. Every household had to have a granary. Everyone had to contribute to the community. So it's quite fascinating.
It really is.
Go back to the culture.
It really is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So retirement now, you said you've had a chance to travel a bit more, of course, work on the book. So now we have the book, and you're doing a bit more travel.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of going to different parts of the world, if you were to pick somewhere that was not Uganda, where would you go?
South Africa.
South Africa?
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in South Africa. I did my boyhood in South Africa. And we've gone back to South Africa for holidays many times. And our favorite city in the world is Cape Town. And I love to tell people...
I feel like it's the most beautiful place in the world.
I love to tell people from Sydney, Australia, that my favorite city in the world is Cape Town. It's such a beautiful city, and it's not expensive. And South Africa has its challenges, has its problems, but it's also got so much to offer. So South Africa is where we like to go.
It has so much potential as well.
Yeah, it really does. And they're getting through some of the challenges they've had in the past. And I love Uganda, it's first, but I also love Africa, the rest of Africa. I'm hoping that in these retirement years, I'll be able to spend some time visiting some of the other countries of Africa and just encouraging church leaders, come on, let's build a new Africa. It's Africa's turn. Africa has been looked down on and despised and considered a problem.
Why do you think that is, though?
Poverty, inept government, not being able to break out of it, corruption that has held us back. If we can break through those things, Africans are smart. They're smart as anybody else. Our agricultural potential is massive. We can build technology here. We can start industries and businesses, and we can do that. But sometimes corruption and inept government has held us back. And sometimes we have a mindset that we're not as good as other people. That's not true. It's just not true. We have to be careful that we don't become proud and arrogant and all the rest. But I do believe
that have confidence in doing the right thing and the ability to do more.
It's Africa's turn. And that's my dream. Raise a generation of young Africans who won't only be the best pastors, but the best politicians, the best policemen, the best teachers,
I love that.
the best lawyers. We can do it. We can. The rest of the world is turning away from God. Africa's turning to God.
Yeah.
And if you turn to God...
It's trying times right now.
Yeah, it really is.
It's the strife is I think there was a time where it wasn't quite so obvious, I feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because of technology now, because of this information that is so available to us in so many ways. It is such a tricky time, especially for young people right now, in terms of finding their faith and staying strong in their faith as well.
Very true.
So I guess that's why community, church, family is so important.
People need each other. People need support. People need help. Everybody's so busy trying to look after themselves that they don't care about someone else. And they're quite willing to walk over someone else to get ahead.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of world we need to build.
I guess that's because people are being told, you have to be ambitious.
Exactly.
You have to get ahead.
Yeah. And you have to look a certain way. And there's so much pressure in the social media, people competing with each other and getting the most likes and all of the rest. And the pressure on young people is immense.
Because we didn't have this 20 years ago.
The mental health issues. Well, again, I'm biased from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. The answer is come to church, find a family where you are important. Every person is important. Every person has potential.
Where you're loved, where you're accepted.
You're loved, accepted for who you are. You don't have to be perfect to come. In fact, none of us are.
I think you've always said, come as you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there you'll find grace and love and forgiveness and support and help. And when you have that kind of church, you can't keep people away. And that's the kind of church that God's allowed us to be. And I really felt, Gary, write it down in a book. Tell the story to the people of Uganda about what he has done. So I'm excited that we've been able to do that.
I think one of the most powerful things as well, if we look at the 40 years, is how you've been able to have such accountability and transparency as a church, because that's one of the things. I mean, we're just talking about some of the things that hold us back. And some of the reasons that many churches crumble is because, there's greed involved, and then you collect a lot of money, you deal with a lot of money to be able to make sure you have the systems in place. That is quite impressive. How have you been able to do that? And you mentioned just the background of being musicians, and you must be disciplined. You must have discipline. So how have you been able to make sure that that is something that has continued to grow in the church?
I think a number of things are absolutely critical to success in life. True success in life. You can have plastic success and be unhappy and all the rest. But one of them is to be a person of integrity. Financial integrity, sexual integrity, relational integrity. True. You're true. Your yes is yes and your no is no. You won't steal. You won't lie. You won't cheat. You won't do things to get ahead that are just not true. Integrity, critical. Integrity can change a nation. The other is humility. None of us are who we are because of who we've made ourselves. God created us. We need to be humble, and we need to be. It's not about us. It's about other people. And the third thing is being a servant. Serve people. If you serve people, you'll get ahead. You want to be a good business? Serve your customers. Make your customers so happy they say, I'm not going anywhere else. So doctors, teachers, lawyers, everybody, let's serve people. We've tried to do that as a church. So we've maintained integrity. Not only do I want to maintain personal integrity and humility and servanthood, but we've done that as a church. So we're accountable.
Which is really commendable.
Yeah, thank you. We've done that for our finances. I don't write the checks. I don't keep the books.
Did you start a long time ago putting systems in place?
Oh, long time ago.
I mean, because in a way, at least in terms of finances, it's almost like having a business. You must have very clear, channels for how you handle it.
And we've done that very clearly. And so God has blessed us, and people trust us, and they give, and they know that the money's spent wisely. And people internationally give to help us look after children. They come check, and we can show them how we've spent the money.
I think that is the most amazing
so
thing, which is why I
important.
was saying the accountability, because even coming to the villages,
Yeah.
you're able to see all the things, the homes that have been built, the people that have been helped.
Yeah.
Are you working on a university?
We are. We're working with the university in the United States of America to do university by extension. So it's going to be not going to a brick and mortar university as it is online university. And they're working with us, and it will grow and develop. We have several hundred students now, but it'll eventually be thousands of students. Education is going to change with the online education. You can get any course now without going anywhere else. You can do it right here, much cheaper.
True.
So that's the kind of university that we're involved in.
That you are envisioning. Okay, moving
We've
forward.
already started that.
You have started that?
Oh, yes, we've started that.
Okay.
And there are people who are already graduating with degrees and so on.
So
we've also, another exciting thing is on Tuesday we are dedicating our first agricultural college just south of Gulu. It's going to be the best agricultural college in East Africa. It's millions of dollars to put it up. Students are going to come and work while they study and pay no school fees.
Okay.
And graduate debt-free with a university degree from the US in all kinds of agricultural things.
I love to hear that because, I mean, as a country, we've always been so blessed in terms of being a food basket. I think at some point they said Uganda could literally feed the whole region.
Right.
But more and more, we're hearing that there's less food coming out of Uganda.
Yeah.
And I was just finding out a few weeks ago that we've actually started importing some of our food. I'm like, how is this possible?
Right.
What has gone wrong? So that is exciting.
Yeah. People don't feel that farmers are important. They're second-rate, third-rate citizens. They're poor. They're dirty. And so people don't want to be farmers. They want to be doctors, engineers, lawyers. And
what you mentioned about social media.
Yeah. And it's just not true. You can be a farmer and make a good living, very good living.
Very good living.
And you can be happy and healthy and whole and contribute to the building of our nation and society. So we want to change that perception for young people. Farming and agriculture and the agribusiness, which is not just farming, but the whole producing,
the whole chain.
The whole chain is what we want to see young people get involved in, not just some of the more technological or highly scientific.
Yeah, I mean, it's a value
careers.
addition as well that comes with it. But it's interesting, you said you're born in Zimbabwe, and I remember one of the things about Zimbabwe was some of the most successful, richest people in that community were the farmers.
Absolutely.
And they had systems in place, and it was amazing.
Exported to the world. We can do the same.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can.
So it's just about, again, changing that perception and getting people back into the field.
Yeah, very true.
Okay, so there's people talk about one of the things to ground you, to ground us in our faith, to ground us in the wonder of nature, is to use our hands. Do you do any kind of farming or anything like that?
I started a vegetable garden at the bottom of my yard.
How's that going?
Which is next to the lake. And I've really enjoyed doing it, getting my fingers in the ground and planting and watching them grow and so on. But the lake has come up and flooded half of my garden.
Oh, yes.
And so I've lost it. But I've really enjoyed doing that. I've told Marilyn, I think I'd like to see if I could try to raise some chickens and turkeys and ducks. I think she thinks I'm a bit crazy, but it's something that just interests me a little bit to go back. And, here's the thing about that God made so plain to me a number of years ago. All of life is sacred. All of life was created by God. That includes agriculture.
Yes.
Agriculture is a miracle. Plant a seed and get a crop.
Yes.
Try for science to do that. Can't do it.
Life is not something science can recreate.
All of life is a miracle. Every one of us is a living, walking, talking, moving miracle. There's no brain on the planet no computer on the planet that is smarter than the brain in every person's head. God made it.
Yeah.
So we need to recognize that whatever we do in life, we need to do for the glory of God, to help other people. And we all have ability, different abilities.
Yeah.
And we're miracles. And farming, so we feel farming is one of those things that we must reclaim.
And I think talking about the young people, that is something that a lot more people have to put their attention to. I mean, young people need to be farming.
Yeah.
Yes, there's
Young
so much
people.
you can do, especially with the information we have available in the world today.
And we're the youngest continent. We're the youngest country. and we need to reach the children, and we need to reach the young people, and we need to envision them a new Africa.
So you mentioned some pillars that are incredibly important, that have guided you: integrity, humility, that
Servanthood.
are so important, service. What would you say, looking back, is one of the things that maybe you are most grateful for? I don't know if you've had health challenges, or is there something that there was a time where it was dark and you were like so grateful for something that came through? I know there've probably been so many.
We all face times of personal failure, making a mistake of some kind, saying something we shouldn't have said, or whatever. We all get let down by people, and we become discouraged and depressed,
and disillusioned,
and all of us, and that's life. The thing that I'm most thankful for in my life is not only that I have a relationship with Jesus that I can go back to all the time, but my wife. She has been the most amazing person, stood by me through thick and thin, through my ups and my downs, the times I was tired, the times I was frustrated or fed up. She's always been there. She's been a rock. And my marriage is the best thing. My family is the best thing. I love the church. I love Uganda and Ugandans and the young people. But you know, your family, your marriage, it's precious. It's the most precious.
Okay. So I need to find out about the book. The book now, Where Faith Lit the Way. Can you tell us, where can we find it? How do we get it?
So the book is available as of this week, and you can get it at Watoto Church, any one of our campuses, and it's. I'm excited about it.
You're proud of it.
I really am, and I've worked very hard at it. And I read the book myself and cry and laugh.
It must have been a very emotional.
It is. It's
emotional experience. I mean, if you've been writing down stories for 20 years, to be able to decide what goes into this, it must have been quite.
There's so many people who are Ugandans or even come to Watoto Church that don't know the story, the amazing story of what God did in those early days. And then the other thing is, there's so many young people who want to do something with their lives. I believe they'll be inspired and challenged by what they read. If God can use ordinary people like us, He can use ordinary people like you too. So you can get the book any one of our Watoto Church campuses anytime. Okay.
I'm sure there are going to be people who are outside Uganda who will be like, oh, how do we get a copy? Will you have any available online as well?
Yeah, you can come to the church, online church, and you can order the book there. But I will also have a website out soon, GaryMarkSkinner.com.
Okay.
And I'm going to market the book through that internationally as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have different seasons in life, and I imagine for you this is another season. Now that you have kind of not stepped away completely from Watoto, but I mean, you've handed the mantle over, you trust, and they're doing amazing.
They're doing an amazing job. They really are.
Yes. So this season of life, are there some things that, you're looking forward to as well?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to traveling a little more and not necessarily having to work quite so hard when we do travel, enjoy it a bit more. We're looking forward to spending more time with our grandchildren, looking forward to being able to mentor other young pastors in other parts of the world. Looking forward to all of those things. Looking forward to spending more time together, Marilyn and I, as lovers, as friends, as partners in life. Spending time with each other, doing some of the things we've always wanted to do, going some of the places we've always wanted to go. But at the core of everything is we just want to serve. We want to be useful. If there's any way we can help anybody, we just want to do that. It's been exciting to have pastors that are not Watoto church pastors who've said, would you mind spending coffee with me and just giving me some pointers? And we've had some really good times. So I think that's good for us to be able to do some of those kind of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome, Crystal.
This was a blessing.
Thank you. It's an honor. And thank you for what you're doing on your program, making stories available that encourage and inspire people to be better.
Thank you very, very much.
Keep it up.
I will. I shall. And thank you for sharing this. A reminder that it is available right now, I believe, for 80,000 shillings.
80,000 shillings.
Well worth it. Looking forward to reading it.
Good.
And yes, may the good Lord continue to bless you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.